Okay.
I'm Brandon.
And I'm Isaac.
Welcome to BrainShake.
And today we have our guest here, Matt Steele.
Hi, I'm Matt Steele.
And we're going to be going on it's going to be a little different. We're going to go on like a bigger adventure.
Big adventure. We're going to steal some mats from the carpenters. Anyway, we went to the laundromat, and there was some steel piping there.
Yeah.
And okay, enough of the puns.
We're at Citadel Hill here in Halifax right now. We're in this tent kind of type thing.
I guess that's soldiers.
It's festival season, yo.
Yeah. So yeah, today we're gonna talk to Matt, get to know Matt, get to see some cool scenic shots of Nova Scotia.
We'll talk about Matt and his journey through music and all that stuff again.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty much going to be a little bit different.
Different is good. Different is good.
Yeah, we'll be evolving into like this whole series where we're going to be doing adventures with guests, pretty much. So, yeah.
I like adventure. 1, 2, 3, 4. Welcome to the cat. I come from an Acadian family of Gallants in South Rustico, Prince Edward Island. My grandparents were in the church choir their whole lives. My uncle is Lenny Gallant, and so every summer I'd come to PEI, and Saturday night my Uncle Danny's cover band would play the dance, and we'd hide backstage and listen, and then on Sunday night it would be the big concert, and Lenny would play, and it was just so awesome to kind of have somebody in your family who made music. And so I grew up listening to the Beatles and my Uncle Lenny and all kinds of stuff, and Garth Brooks. I had a little country obsession when I was like 7. My mom put me on the violin, gave me a choice when I was like 6. She was like, you can play violin or piano, but you can't be a rock star if you don't have like a classical background, is what she told me at the time. So I played violin for years, and then somewhere along the way, my cousins and I when I'd come up to PEI in the summer, we just started writing songs. They were awful, really awful, and we would charge our family money to see us perform them on like tennis rackets and baseball bats, and like just pretend like they were guitars, and we would just go like no, and like it was probably just cute and stupid at the same time, but I think that was kind of part of it, was just kind of doing it. I was always felt like I was a bit of an entertainer, and then you get into high school, you're angsty, there's all this music that speaks to you, so you want to learn how to play it. I started playing guitar and bass and drums, and eventually my cousin suckered me into doing a performing arts technology degree that was at the University of Michigan instead of something sensible like political science or history or English even. And then I moved to Canada and just kept playing music, and now I'm addicted to performing. Try to play as much as I can, without burning out myself or my bandmates or our audience or anything like that. I have been grappling with, especially since the election of Donald Trump, because my personal story is one that I feel like I've become more comfortable talking about as I realize how profoundly it really affected me. And it's something I didn't realize how profoundly it affected me until after my mom passed away in 2014. Can you not? You have a whole other chair to scratch. No. The first few years of my life I grew up with a single mother. My parents divorced when I was like 1. And I always just grew up, and my best friend, his parents were divorced, and so I always just kind of grew up being like, I grew up with my dad living in another state, and like that's normal and totally okay, and it doesn't bother me at all because it happened. I always thought I was lucky that it happened when I was too young to be affected by it. So I thought. And I've realized that really it affected me greatly in that I think that sort of knowing that I'm different from other people. When I was younger, I was reading my mom's letters after she died, and she was, begging my dad to be more involved and to call more often and to, follow through when he said he was going to come visit or pick me up. And not that he didn't, have contact with me and, take me, but just that I think she wanted more. My mother was a really, really dedicated family person. And just reading these stories about how I would be out in the driveway waiting for my dad and he wasn't coming, maybe probably wasn't even planning on coming. I just was hoping that if I stood out in the driveway, he would come. And it made me realize that I think I've always wondered, especially since like social justice movements and things have become a big social media topic, I've always kind of wondered why, for somebody in my sort of how I grew up in an upper middle class neighborhood with professionals and like everybody else I knew was probably a Republican and all that, like why I kind of cared so much about like people who didn't have, and not just in a like, oh, let's go volunteer at the soup kitchen, but like why do these people have to suffer in this way to begin with, or why do these people struggle even though they work full time, or why can't gay people have the same rights? And I think it kind of goes back to having that sort of sense of loss so early in life attuned me a little bit to other people, even though I'm an only child and I call myself narcissistic and selfish all the time, and I am narcissistic and selfish, but I think that's paired with this kind of desire to see things be better for other people. And so I think that's probably like, it's not something I knew at the time, but I'm realizing how influential the first few years of my life really were. I think that, and just other than that, just being influenced by my mom in general growing up. She just was always kind of tireless in her work. She was a child and adolescent psychiatrist, and I think that's why I'm interested in mental health now in my recreation therapy future practice. Is just, we're not doing enough. I think recreation is a really good way to help people with those mental health issues in a way that, she was a psychiatrist, and so she was constantly pushing the social workers to do better, and the schools to do better, and her coworkers to do better, and herself to do better, despite all of our flaws. So I think those are big picture things for me, I guess. It's tied up in how kind of weird my whole Canadian adventure has kind of been. So as I mentioned before, my cousins convinced me to get a performing arts technology degree, which aside from doing a little bit of video work and recording my first band that I was in with my cousins when I first moved to Halifax, and I guess doing a lot of like live sound work, I really haven't made a career out of what I went to school for, which is common for a lot of people in our generation. But after my mom died, I was dating a girl who lived here. She had moved here because she couldn't find work in PEI, or she just was done with PEI. And I think I had wanted to get out of PEI. I love it, and I've got my best friend Andrew lives there, and my family lives there, but I think there was this sense of my band. I'd quit a year or two earlier. It just didn't work out. They went one way and I went another. And my mom had died, and I'd kind of, PEI stopped being kind of like as fun, I guess, in those kind of regards. It was, and then I had this woman that I loved and was in a relationship with our cat, and over there wherever he is now, and she was kind of really pressuring me to move to Halifax, and I had, my mom had just died only a couple months, or a month really earlier, and when in retrospect, when big things happen like that, you really should hunker down for 6 months. But in my grief, I just sort of made an impulsive decision to move, and it was the right decision. It was just maybe a bit too early. And I think that my ex, we were talking about one time, and she recognized, she didn't realize at the time how how much sort of grief I was under, because I'm not the kind of person who's just like crying all the time. But Halifax is definitely like where I had my eye on. I like it here. It is, it's got a lot of arts, a lot of opportunity. It's got as many beautiful places as PEI, although the beaches are better in PEI. It's got a big university that offers more degree programs. And so, you know, it was right decision, wrong time maybe, but ultimately it all came out in the wash. I think I'm going to be here for a little while longer. I moved here for love, I stayed here for the city. Movies? I'm bad with movies. I don't watch a lot of movies. So there was a movie, I can't remember the name of it now. I wish I had, but it was sort of a quasi-religious movie where it was centered on. It was kind of centered on that kind of fine line between coincidence and God, where it was kind of, as far as I can remember, it was kind of two characters, and one of them was kind of always having these miraculous things happen and crediting God, and the other person was always trying to find, you know, the science behind it. Like, oh, you know, your apartment caught on fire because you had a faulty electrical plug, but you were saved because it happened to be raining at the time, or like a freak thunderstorm happened and washed out your house or something. And it was suggested to me by a professor I had at Michigan, who was a Christian but very spiritually open, and tried to teach me as a young new atheist at the time that they're, you know, God and not God are sort of two sides of the same coin, and that coin is sort of just search for truth and spirituality in whatever way sort of is meaningful and good. And so it was an interesting movie to watch just because it was funny, and it was, you know, it was smart, and it was kind of silly and comedic. And that sort of influenced me in a way, because I am an atheist, but I'm spiritual, and I've had a spiritual experience on top of a volcano that ironically my two religious siblings didn't have, even though we were all standing on the same piece of rock like 3 feet apart from each other. So I think in terms of movies, I don't know, I'm kind of like a movie bro, I guess. Like, I love Tarantino. I love Monty Python. Like, really exciting movie choices, guys. You're familiar with the Carl Sagan's Pale Blue Dot?
Yeah.
So it was very Pale Blue Dot of kind of an experience where I was just standing on top of this volcano, Mount Haleakala, above the cloud line. So you're kind of like, the clouds just are going on in every direction for all the way to the horizon line in every direction. You can see like the blue of the sky, nothing above you, just space. And it was a sunny day. You couldn't see anything below you. It was just clouds. So I just sort of felt this weird sensation of being connected to everything. And then I felt very insignificant. I felt like that little pale blue dot. I was like, everything that's ever happened has happened on this planet, and like I can see in infinite directions. You couldn't fit all the people in the world in the view that I had, and all of history, and I just felt so connected and insignificant, but at the same time it was like this release where it was like kind of like, you know, like this weird voice of God kind of thing, where it was like, nothing matters, there is no God, now go out and make a difference in the world. You know, like kind of this yin and yang thing. It's like nothing matters, everything matters. You know, you could disappear off the face of the earth tomorrow and it wouldn't really make a difference. But at the same time, if you stayed on the earth and made a difference, like, cosmically it's insignificant, but for people who you affect, it is the world of difference. So I've tried to carry that with me, It's hard, as I mentioned earlier. Like, I'm an only child, so I can be very selfish at times and very, narcissistic. And my dear mother, doted on me a lot, but I try to do things for people, and I try to help people out, and I volunteer at different places, and try to make the day a little better for those people. I work at a nursing home and basically just give all these old people a reason to hang on every day, and that's all you can do. It's just try to that old Gandhi quote, be the change, right? I'm not perfect, but I can try. There's a side tangent to that. I don't know how religious and metaphysical you want to get into it. As I mentioned, my siblings didn't really seem to think there was anything, it was a beautiful sight, but they didn't seem to catch any sort of significance off of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I always reflected on that is that, down in the States, it's not as bad up here, but there's this sort of fight between like grace and authority, where I got this from a pastor who I read an op-ed for in my hometown paper, where, like, I'm a grace person. Like, the majesty of the world, like, if you just sort of approached it from a, like, God made everything beautiful perspective, like, I can kind of get behind that. Like, there's some beauty in this world and in this universe. But then the authority people, they're not, like, they don't go to church and do the Sermon on the Mount and the blessed are the peacemakers and the meek. They're going to church to learn what not to do, to what box you can fit in, what shackles you can put on yourself to prevent yourself from doing bad things. And so, I found the volcano experience was sort of illuminating, because I feel like I've been touched by some sort of cosmic thing. There's not really a word you can put on it, but I've been touched and blessed with an experience that all these people who fervently pray and who fervently vote for repressive things, like, I wonder, like, do they experience that? Because if you did, would you behave the way you did? I mean, if you felt nothing and everything at the same moment, would you really feel like chasing transgender people out of bathrooms is really the best use of your time? And so, that's maybe for another day. I studied religion a fair bit when I had my first degree, and I lived with some philosophers, but I'm no expert on it. But I think it's like those are kind of interesting topics to have, to think about at some point. Maybe a future podcast episode.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Matt.
Yeah,
honestly.
All right. So we were just talking a second ago when the camera was off about how you guys are learning more about people through the podcast than you would in day-to-day interactions. And that maybe you should ask people more questions in day-to-day life. And that reminded me of, and it's a trap that I fall into a lot, because it's the easiest question to ask is when you meet somebody, you go, hi, my name's so-and-so, oh, nice to meet you, so-and-so. And you go, what do you do? Like, where do you work? What's your, what's your social status? Because, like, who wants to be like, yeah, I work at McDonald's, or like, yeah, I'm a bag clerk at Walmart. Like, that's just a job. And it's not like, oh, I'm a lawyer, or, oh, I'm studying to be a rec therapist, or, oh, I work with the Children's Defense Fund, or whatever. It's the wrong question to ask, almost, because it immediately sets up all these sort of class and social anxieties. And so I really hope that when you guys learn to ask these questions, you can influence other people like me to ask better questions. And when you describe people that you meet, rather than saying like, oh, this is, Jess, she's a lawyer, be like, Jess, she's got a great sense of humor. Or this is Jess, she is just absolutely a kind person, and I saw her do this the other day for somebody who didn't ask for help, but they needed it. I think that's a really important thing for us to maybe get over some of our hang-ups. Like, it probably sucks to work at Walmart, but somebody has to work at Walmart. I have worked at a call center before, and it always sucked to be like, what are you doing right now? Oh, I'm a operations support representative for Staples.com. Or like I did Gus, I work in the fraud division. Like, yeah, occasionally I was assigned to fraud, but was essentially a call center person. So, like trying to change those questions to try to get more at the human side of things, and not less at the technical aspect of someone's life.
It's really, I love that you say that, because I think part of what we aim to do, and I don't know if we've achieved it yet, is to get past labels when it comes to people.
It's funny.
And get to the core of a human being, the more fluid, ever-changing part of someone, and instead of trying to fit people in the boxes and compartmentalize everything.
It's funny that
I think we're trying to break barriers in a sense with what we try to do.
It's funny that you said that too, because it's such a simple thing, right? That you think that you couldn't miss it, but it's just even just now when you said that, it was just like completely. I had like a revelation almost.
It's interesting. I've actually been thinking about that a lot lately.
Yeah. Questions.
Because it's like when you go to like I've been networking a lot.
Yeah.
You go to networking events. Oh, what's your name? What do you do? Like, what's your job?
Yeah.
And I'm starting to try to ask people, what are you passionate about? What are your hobbies?
Yeah.
Like
that's great.
Things like that.
They'll remember that more anyway.
Yeah.
So I thought that's awesome.
Ask people if they're a vinyl, CD, or streaming person.
Yeah.
I don't know. As you can see back here, I'm a bit of both. I was when we walked in the door, I was on Spotify, but I also have a record player and a CD collection. Hot tip: Taz Records often has free CDs out front of the store. They're often awful or classical music. But if you have a record player, I highly recommend people just take a chance or go to Value Village and see something that you've always been curious about and drop the $1.
Did you notice that Spotify upped the price by $5?
Didn't notice that.
They kicked me off Spotify, and then I went back to sign up again, and it's $5 more than what I was paying.
That's brutal. Well, they can't. I mean, Spotify hasn't made a dime yet, so.
You think they'd be rich at this point?
Well, the CEO and all those guys are rich because they've got venture capital money, but the actual company hasn't really made a dime.
Where's all the money go? To the artists?
It just goes to paying off. I mean, it goes to paying off artists, it goes to paying off loans, it goes to paying wages, but like they just aren't really.
It's interesting.
They're not really like there yet as far as like if they are there, they're not like there.
Right.
Alright. Like your funky socks. I too am a funky sock person. This is Alex McCaskill. He runs a print shop on Gottingen Street.
Okay.
If you feel like shouting him out, because I love his art.
Let's see if you win. This is like the most Canadian footage we could ever get right now.
Holy shit.
Oh my god, you got a coffee.
I want a coffee.
Dude, I have 3 jackets from Forever 21. They're just like one's white, one's the silver one I wore at the show.
Oh, okay.
And one's black. And I have 3 jean jackets. I have this one. No, I have 4 now. I have this one, which has got like band pins, and this is another art piece designed by Alex McCaskill.
Yeah.
This is a pin for my other band, Split Lips.
Cool.
And the Queens of the Stone Age patch on the back. And then I have another just like blue jean jacket that I'm waiting for this one to disintegrate to start wearing. And then I have a black one and a white one.
Excuse me.
Although the black one and the white/cream one don't fit quite as well, so I don't wear them as often. But I have,
Yeah.
Man, it's got to be prepared for whatever kind of rock and roll life throws at him.
I'm building a heart. It's a piece by piece affair, harder than a bridge or a tall skyscraper. I'm building a heart and putting in work, making us a shelter from the hurt. 'Cause I'm giving you my love day by day. I don't have a plan, just a feeling when I'm with you I'm okay. So I'm giving you my love, I'm giving you my love.
Last ride that I had to source. Let's see how this goes. Hello.
So will this be your first visiting?
Oh boy.
That's how you pronounce it, right?
Maybe.
This is Les Convoys and L Explosion D Halifax.
Perfect. Spot on.
Oh yeah.
Why does Scotiabank keep buying everything?
I don't know.
They bought the Metro Center, they bought the big IMAX.
Because they are
Banks
in
are
the business of making money.
world, man. How do you feel about the banks?
I try to read about things from all different sides. I think that banks should not be. I don't know. It's weird because we live in a globalized world, so you have to have globalized trade, globalized credit,
Yeah.
globalized banking. But I feel like banks are sort of behaving like publicly traded stock companies, and maybe they are. But it's like I think that
That might not be the right model.
it's not the right model. I like the credit bank model, the nationalized bank model, where the national bank kind of is responsible to the people whose accounts it's in charge of, and it's responsible, to the state or to the nation. So, like for example, Minnesota, I think it was Minnesota or North Dakota, had a state bank. Its CEO was paid like, $300,000 a year, tied to inflation or something like that. His raise, and it was one of the few American banks that didn't have like any problem weathering the recession that happened in 2008 because they were strictly making reasonable loans. They weren't doing any subprime mortgages. They weren't trying to gouge people into all these extra accounts. They were just doing what a bank would originally do, and they did all right. I mean, no one's making millions and millions of dollars, but I think that shouldn't be the point. They tell us that we should be satisfied working a call center. As I mentioned earlier, they tell us that we should be satisfied working a call center. We should find meaning in working at Walmart. We should be happy with the crumbs that we get. But then these people, we should do work because we love it and not because we're gonna get paid millions. Like in the case of healthcare workers, you should be a CCA because we need somebody to clean the bedpans. But then you have these guys who are working at the banks going like, oh no, I love my work and also I make gazillions of dollars. No, if you love working at a bank so much, you should be happy with $250,000.
Right. Yeah.
I grew up, my parents both made, about $200,000 a year or something like that. Maybe a little bit more, a little less because they were doctors. But we had a good life. I had a good upbringing. And I've been to people's houses who had more than that, and that was good too. But at a certain point, your money is just not doing anything. It's not helping the economy. There's some people who are so rich, their money accrues interest faster than they could spend that money.
Yeah.
That doesn't help anybody.
I think it's interesting as well. Most of the tallest buildings are all bank buildings.
Yeah, I mean, that's also that's a branding thing too, right?
Yeah.
They want you to see. I mean, if Scotiabank Center people are going, oh, I need to open up a bank account. Well, what's the first bank that comes to mind if you live in Halifax?
Scotiabank, CIBC, yeah.
Scotiabank, CIBC. Oh yeah, I mean, I remember. I think about bank mergers. I think bank mergers should be all banks shouldn't be so big.
Yeah.
But I remember when I was growing up, it was Bank One. Bank One was our bank. And then Bank One was bought by Chase, and then it became Chase Bank. And then Chase was bought by JP Morgan, so it became JP Morgan Chase. And every time the bank got bigger, more corporate, and more, focused on making big loans and pushing bigger lines of credit.
Right.
And less about just sort of allowing for the banking needs of the person.
I've been thinking of joining a credit union.
Apologies to the one who loved me now. I truly mean what I could not say when I ambled down the stairs out to the open air. So I can hardly make the call to dry your eyes over the phone. I'm trying to care, but I don't give a damn about this whole affair. And I won't be the man who is responsible. Yes, I will be the man who is responsible for how you feel.
Yeah, so I guess where do you guys want to go first, really? Here, just want to explore?
Check the ramparts.
Yeah. What's your favorite part about Halifax? That right there?
Not that. Man, there's a lot of cool things about Halifax. My favorite part, I think, is I just like all the food here.
Yeah?
I like the food, and I like being able to be within walking distance of a lot of like music shows.
Definitely.
So,
Do you fuck with the war?
wait, what?
Do you fuck with the war?
Do I fuck with the war? Oh, the wharf?
The war.
The war.
It's a reference to a Little Dicky song.
Oh my God.
I'm not pro-war. I think I would recognize war as being a necessary evil sometimes.
Yeah.
But I think like, you know, we have our sort of post-war Western like G20 diplomacy set up for a reason. I mean, there's a reason why like NATO and all those places kind of got set up, is because like war is just sort of the shittiest way of solving your problems, really. Blowing in the wind.
Get like a front shot
Like
of him.
Bono. It's a beautiful day to let it get away. Touch me.
Oh my God.
Take me to the citadel. Teach me. This place is better than a burning hell.
This is fucking intense.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
Fucking intense.
Yep. Wait, Brandon, do you want to say that again?
You ready for this truth bomb?
Hey, yes. What is it?
You ready for this truth bomb? Cannon launcher? It's not the size of the cannon, it's how you use it.
Boom! Whoa!
Alright, let's launch this cannon, guys.
You know, like I just had, after all that really deep conversation earlier about like volcanoes and stuff, I really just had to, you know, do it.
Alright, stuff the cannon in. Cool. Alright, let's light it. I just light it. Alright, watch out, it's gonna shoot.
Brandon, look down at us, see
I
where
can see for miles and miles.
That's where Brandon
I can
is.
see for miles and
Little
miles.
cameraman there.
I can see for miles and miles and
Whoa, it's an earthquake.
Miles. It's a Who song. Check it out.
Alright, I'm gonna get down.
Her voice is beautiful.
Not my singing voice is not
You know what they call Matt back in Kentucky?
lawbreaker.
Cartridge store.
Let's light matches. Let's see what happens.
Guys, does anyone have a light on their phone?
I do.
Yeah. Wait, are we allowed to be in here?
If it's open, it's open.
So,
Alright, Matt, you want to go in first?
cartridges, or rather boxes, it's pretty cramped in here. I would be scared to death. Oh man, it is wet. Probably. Oh, it is moldy in here.
So Matt,
Yeah.
if there's anywhere that you wanted to go in the world, where would it be? Just for the viewers, to get to know your taste, I guess.
You know, I think at some point I'd love to go to Southeast Asia.
Yeah?
I'd love to go visit Australia. And I've been to Europe twice, 3 times now. I've been to France 3 times, Europe twice. And I would love to visit Europe again. There's just so much to do in a place like that.
Yeah.
A place like that, in that corner of the world.
Yeah.
And, you know, just a lot of great art and music. They love music over there. And just a lot of great food, a lot of cool history.
I remember going to Capri, Italy.
Yeah.
And that was just amazing. Like, it just goes to show where like most video game developers get like all their beautiful landscapes from. Like,
yeah, it's like the
so
spaghetti
based off that
westerns.
place.
They were all filmed in Italy.
Yeah. Pretty
and,
amazing.
So, if you were the first person to meet an alien, let's just presume it could understand you.
Yeah.
What questions would you have for the alien?
Oh God.
It's an intelligent alien. We'll presume advanced.
First, I guess I'd probably want to know if it was like coming in peace or not, and like what cool stuff they know that we could learn from to like improve the world. Want to know, like what do you got? What are you packing? And like what can we do for you that would maybe help you guys out,
Yeah.
you guys and gals out, or whatever gender aliens have. And I guess like where they come from. I just want to know everything. I'd be like, give me your encyclopedia and translate it into English. I guess.
Yeah.
That's not too much trouble.
Yeah.
Like I would just want to know like the history of their civilization and like how come they like how did they figure out how to get over here and as long as it wasn't some of that like X-Files like Battlestar Galactica like replicant stuff.
Yeah.
What would you do if the alien adopted you as a pet?
Probably wouldn't be too into that unless I was like.
Would you try to run away every time the apartment door was left open?
Probably. I mean, I guess it depends on how well I was treated and like what kind of capacity I had as a pet. Like if it was like one of those pets where it's like I was a pet but I still got to be like sentient, like
Yeah, you still had like
if it was like I guess like if I was like a entertaining slave where I just got to play music for them but I was like materially cared for, it probably wouldn't be too bad. I'd be like, play music and I'm materially cared for.
And,
That's
like, when the
that's
alien-
better than most musicians.
When your aliens friends came over, they would like make you play. They'd be like, "Come on, do that one song."
Yeah, I probably would be okay.
They'd pick
with
you
that.
up and like pet your head and pass you around. And everyone would come up. Everyone come up like, "Oh, look."
If I get food,
They can't
the
look
food
at
that I enjoy and shelter and water, and I mean that's probably. I bet you'd have musicians signing up to get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Well,
mean I don't
they-
have to live in poverty anymore? I get paid. I mean I get 3 squares and a place to stay, and all I have to do is play wagon wheel every day. Oh man.
Well, if we have any alien viewers out there, we're gonna post an Amazon link to buying Matt as a pet. We get 10% commission, or you can rent him for on the weekends.
For any of those of my brother and sister from Titan, then
Inside jokes.
just definitely look into that. Yeah. Looks like it. I don't remember this being here before.
I don't either. For those of you who want a bird's eye view and can't afford Google Earth, which is free, here is a harbor. This is what it looked like before the dinosaurs.
Before the
When the
dinosaurs.
dinosaurs had cannons in the Precambrian era.
Exactly.
Those
So
are
see,
single-celled cannons.
All these
there.
cannons are representative of all the different forts along the Halifax Harbor in the year 1749, as I was saying. Of course, I knew that off my by heart. Like, we have one of the deepest harbors.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's why we're such a big tourist destination for tall ships and things.
Main
like
harbor
that.
channel is 24 meters deep in places.
Interesting how they defend Halifax, but they don't care about defending Dartmouth. And any collateral damage will obviously be on the Dartmouth side if a cannon misses a ship.
It's because it's the dark side.
People probably didn't live in Dartmouth.
I blame Cornwallis. It's
Well, I was about to say people didn't live in Dartmouth, but clearly that picture shows them living in Dartmouth.
Yeah, so they were not really cared about by the bureaucracy of cannon putter downers.
Great vocabulary, Brandon.
Look at this. Look at this.
Oh my god.
It's the
John Bull.
the Commonwealth and the recruiter person for the military?
Uncle Sam.
Uncle Sam.
He's the Uncle Sam, and it's basically I think it's John Bull, and Uncle Sam are like the two like cartoon representations of the United States and England. Traditional political cartooning from back in the day.
Is there a Canadian cartoon? Not one here anyway.
Matt, do you have any poems or lyrics that stick out to you that you really love?
About adventure or just in general?
In general.
Or quotes?
Written by other people or by myself?
Either or.
Either or. Oh man. Off the top of my head, it's hard to.
Yeah, it's definitely on the spot.
This will show up later in the podcast, but we filmed it earlier. I talked about a little bit about like the be the change you wish to see in the world.
Right.
Which is, I mean, it's a good one. It's a little generic in that like I think everybody says that, but it's a quality one, so there's something to it.
Yeah, I agree.
Poems and lyrics. In the end, the love you make. The love you take is equal to the love you make. One of the final lyrics off of the "Let It Be" by the Beatles is always a good one. You know, you gotta put goodness out into the world if you expect to get goodness in.
Right.
I mean, there's all kinds of great lyrics. I don't know if they necessarily all have to mean anything.
Yeah.
Again later in the podcast, I'm going to shout out one of my favorite records. A lot of little great lyrics in that record I find on the track. It's "On the Beach" by Neil Young. The track "Ambulance Blues" has got a lot of cool little lines in it. There's it's kind of like, it's not the most musical lyric ever.
Oh boy!
So that reminds me that I have a lyric I wrote in the song "Rescue Ship" by my band Matt Steele and the Corvette Sunset, which is coming out later. There's a line. There's a line in the song where in the pre-chorus where I say you're my Coast Guard, paramedic, lifeboat, girl, you get it, you're my red flare, and then I do like a kind of sound.
Perfect for this, I guess.
We're missing some wild stuff, I think.
Yeah.
Bunch of dudes dressed up in old coats firing muskets.
Sorry we didn't film the musket shooting for you.
Yeah.
If you want to know what that looks like, just watch Mel Gibson's The Patriot. The lyric that I was thinking of was from "Ambulance Blues" by Neil Young. There's a line in it called "There ain't nothing like a friend who will tell you when you're pissing in the wind." Kind of like a really, I think that's a great line. Like, you got to keep good people around you, or you'll end up like Donald Trump.
Right. Honest.
Like some
Really
idiot.
People, yeah.
That's
You
true.
know.
So, do you have any questions for us, actually?
Yeah.
Um,
Like even anything that you want to gain out of this day, like anywhere that you
Or
would.
BrainShake about.
well, when you approached me about doing the podcast, man, they are going to town with those guns.
Yeah.
You think we're in
Yeah.
America or something?
Yeah. Really.
When you approached me about doing the podcast, I thought it was a great opportunity to explore the city a little bit, just get out there. As I mentioned, I'm one of those people who sometimes have a hard time get going. I have like high inertia to do things, but when somebody says like, let's go hang out in the city, I'm like, I'm there.
Yes.
I'm there, you know, let's go do it. I'm gonna go find a place outside the city even to hang out.
Is America invading us right now? What is
There's
happening?
something that we're not
I
even
wouldn't be
like.
surprised.
Yeah.
Justin Trudeau
I shouldn't even
beat
joke.
me at my handshake.
Yeah.
Very tremendous handshake. Invade America or invade Canada.
Yeah. Make it America. God.
So yeah, I'm excited for the opportunity to kind of like, you know, Citadel Hill is a cool thing about Halifax. Like it's I mean, you know, the uncool thing is it's like a colonial symbol and all that, but like,
Sure.
you know, it's a cool thing, and it's like we got this big ass fort in the middle of the city. People come here and spend their tourist dollars.
Yeah.
You can see like the whole town from up here, and being able to get up and get some perspective is always a good thing, never a bad thing, I think. So tell me a little bit more about, like, so I've tried to get the scoop on this film that you're working on, but I haven't caught the whole story. Maybe because I'm ADD, or maybe just because I haven't heard the whole story.
We've been quite ambiguous about it, so we'll give you some more details.
Some teasers.
So thus far, it's going to be called Beyond. It's a space film. It's for a NASA Cinespace contest, and essentially, the idea of the film is to change people's perspective on space travel, space exploration, and the importance it has to humanity. And we deal with a lot of symbolisms within this short film, from tribalism, consumerism, greed, inequality. We touch on those things in very subtle ways to try to paint a picture, a kind of mosaic of how space can bring us together, in a sense, as a human species.
Something
That's
that
cool.
it's one of the things that we, sorry to cut you off, it's one of the things that we've worked, been trying to work really hard on. It's one of our bigger productions that we're doing,
basically,
so it's a bit difficult trying to get it off the ground.
It's due at the end of the month, and we decided to do it just like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
It's very ambitious for us.
You guys just break it down. It's like break it down into chunks.
Yeah,
and,
spontaneous too.
Schedule it out, break it into chunks. That way, like, you don't get overwhelmed.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
This is advice I need to follow on my own projects.
Me too.
That sounds awesome. My favorite place always to go whenever I'm, like, especially like I was down in Washington D.C. a month or so ago.
Yeah.
Air and space museums are always one of my favorite places.
So cool.
Space travel is really cool.
The DC, I remember being there with EF Tours with my school.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And that was just such a cool experience.
I
being
guess
able to see that.
Another thing that came to mind, the reason I think I wanted to make this film, regardless of the contest, I wanted to do something about the subject, because I think a lot of times it's hard to connect the benefits to humanity of space travel, because they're not so obvious.
Mm-hmm.
You know, things like Velcro and all these different inventions that spawn from it.
Right.
A lot of people don't draw those connections, but not only that, they don't, as far as the more longer picture, as far as our survival as a species, but also understanding ourselves and our place in the universe more. I think that can get overlooked, but it seems like a waste of money to a lot of people, because there's a lot of things on Earth. There's homelessness and there's poverty that needs to be solved. Of course,
but they're not solving those problems anyways.
Exactly, and my point would be we need to do both.
Yeah.
Not one or the other.
Why not both?
Exactly. Maybe spend a little less on war and military and a little more on space and poverty and those sorts of things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think, like you said, Velcro, it always comes up, like, especially down in the States, whenever people are like, what has government ever done for us? They type on the internet, which was developed by the government.
Yeah, exactly.
Or like, oh, we're spending, $3 million studying butterfly mating habits. Like, how does that help the economy? Well, the butterflies participate in the predator ecosystem for soybean farmers or whatever. Or like up in space they can develop better medicine because the gravity allows bacteria to grow in a different way.
Right.
Or whatever. Like, they don't, I think people sometimes get a little too concrete, and something to that is important maybe to keep in mind as you guys ask these questions, to not judge people too harshly who feel the opposite way, is that
100%.
I think that there's always been people who think very concrete. There's always people who think very concretely and sort of have immediate concerns in their lives. Live a frontier lifestyle even in 2017. I mean, if you think about people who live in rural Nova Scotia or rural New Brunswick, maybe they have a life that doesn't really allow them time to sit back and ask the big questions, or maybe they just don't have the education for that because they're a farmer or whatever. Not, they're not dumb. They just have a different set of smarts.
I agree. Yeah. That's a good point.
But I think that we always, when we look back and study humanity and history, it's always, people study Copernicus. The exciting bits of history are Copernicus or Galileo or, Michelangelo. Not the, who had the most money.
Right.
That's important to historical economists and stuff, but we don't study the Phoenicians as much as we study the Greeks, because the Phoenicians gave us maybe they gave us purple, but the Greeks gave us democracy.
Right. I see what you're saying. It's the evolution of ideas that we generally remember, and
even like Ronald Reagan had this quote where it's like, like economics is important, but like when we study history, we study art and culture. We don't study like who sold the most cows.
Right. Even Reagan said something smart. No, but
anyway, this podcast is going to be pretty great. I'm excited to kind of travel and see the sights of Nova Scotia wherever we may end up, and learn more.
We're going to Yarmouth, buds. Just kidding.
And learn more about you as well. Like, I've known you for a little while. We've known you for a little while, and we've already feel like we're learning more about you as a person from this. So
and I think
the good side.
I think the beautiful thing about this is through getting to know our guest and exploring their life while also exploring the world, it helps us get to know ourselves better. And I think I can speak for the viewers in that sense, that in life, when you go through life, your experiences are often a mirror of yourself in a way, and help you not only understand the world better, but also understand yourself better.
Yeah,
exactly.
I totally feel that. I learned something like, I came into university, and again, second time.
Yeah.
Because clearly I didn't do well with my first degree. But I came back to university like thinking I knew all this stuff, and like I was just gonna like impart all this wisdom on you youngins.
Yeah.
And like I've learned stuff from people about their lives, and it's been fun to watch like you two guys like grow as you learn things, because you guys are like right in that prime time where I was a million back with the dinosaurs. A few years back when you're like finally getting out in the real world a little bit, and you're finally like you're interacting with like a different set of people.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned so much since I moved to the Maritimes, because before I was like in a largely privileged world. I grew up in like a gated neighborhood or whatever.
Right.
Like I went to public school, but like it was in an more affluent part of town, and I went to a really nice university with like lots of really smart, dedicated people. So you didn't like run into like a whole lot of like problems, and like mental health still wasn't really talked about like a few years back. And then so I moved to Charlottetown, PEI, and all of a sudden I start meeting people who are like behaving erratically, or at the bar every night of the week, or have a disability or whatever, and then you start to learn.
Right.
So it's been cool mutually growing from you guys and other people in our friend circle, like everybody who went down to Wolfville.
Well, we'll see you in the next scene.
To the next scene.
I tried. So now we're in Lunenburg.